fit. There's little doubt that one Donald J. Trump has truly and effectively rattled his northern neighbors' chains. Aren't the Americans our friends? And vice versa. Is the president serious in his desire to make Canada the 51st state? He certainly seems serious enough when discussing his proposed takeover of Greenland.
Well, we need Greenland for national security purposes. I've been told that for a long time, long before I even ran.
Such intensity and unpredictability of purpose has sent the leaders of that country, reminiscent of the Canadian Liberals in their political orientation, into a tizzy, one that has extended to their socialist and globalist European compatriots. Who is this horrible orange-haired man? They wonder. And what does he want? We're all about to find out, and not least in Canada. Why is all this happening, we ask, wringing our hands? And to us, the self-proclaimed greatest best friend and staunch ally of the elephant who parades so theatrically on the far side of our southern border. We might begin to answer that suddenly so relevant question by scrupulously questioning the nature of that friendship and on our side. Perhaps we're not the partners and collaborators we think we are. For starters, it could well be argued, for example, that our much vaunted Canuck niceness, that second-rate virtue, in relation to the superpower who overshadows us in every manner, is and has been a matter of blunt necessity, rather than a consequence of our genuine reliability as well-wisher and supporter. It's true that Canada has made sacrifices alongside the Americans when freedom and democracy were truly threatened. That was real, but it was a long time ago. Since then, we have played and continue to play a crooked game with regard to our hypothetical U.S. allies in many important and consequential regards. A telling personal example might serve to introduce this reevaluation. Yeah, this was really striking to me. You know, I spent a number of years in the United States, 92 to 98, when that country was booming in consequence of the internet revolution. And then I came back to Canada, to the University of Toronto, and as you'll see, I brought some students with me, and this is really their story. I lived in the U.S. from 1992 to 98, during the last time that remarkable country truly boomed. When I returned from America's finest university to Canada's, I brought with me 3 brilliant students, 2 of whom, a married couple, were both thoroughly sensible and somewhat on the conservative side. It proved somewhat unexpectedly difficult to take my junior colleagues anywhere in Toronto, particularly at the university, without continual embarrassment on my part for merely being a Canadian, as a casual anti-Americanism would reliably be directed toward them whenever the inevitable topic of their place of origin arose. My fellow countrymen continually said things that would have been regarded as clearly racist, sexist, or ethnocentric had they been uttered to anyone other than an American citizen, assuming rightly, given the civilized nature of the people in question, that they would take them politely and without evident offense. Such comments were much more likely to emanate as well from precisely the sort of leftists prone to proclaim that such behavior is utterly unacceptable, and second, that such conduct would of course never show its face among people as good in their thoughts as them. Such behavior is, sadly, a Canadian norm, particularly wherever the country is left-leaning, particularly where everyone believes axiomatically that we have all the virtues of our democratic compatriots to the south, and then some, particularly wherever everyone is inclined to point self-righteously to the wonders of our now dreadful and oft murderous free healthcare system and its associated highly dysfunctional, expensive, and increasingly unsustainable social safety net. And compare it to the free-for-all in the U.S. they inevitably resort to if death threatens and they have the money. That combined attitude of essentially socialist sentiment and moral superiority was exemplified above all, perhaps, by former Prime Minister Trudeau. And I'm speaking now not of the Feasts who resigned in disgrace after sacrificing our economy to the gods of his self-serving utopian globalist delusion. I'm referring instead to the pair who dallied so self-aggrandizingly with the Chinese Reds and the dictatorial communist Fidel Castro and rubbed the Americans' noses in it, moralizing intellectually and oh so fashionably all the while. We Canadians also pride ourselves on our peaceful and peacekeeping nature. Take that, Yanks. Contrasting that with the warmongering attitude of the gunslingers we secretly admire but so publicly disdain, forgetting conveniently that is nothing but our positioning under the fearsome nuclear umbrella of the USA and our knowledge of the certainty of their military protection if push comes to shove that allows us to be the sheep of peace who bleat their undeserved self-regard with so little shame. Let's add to that our absolute and disgraceful refusal to pull our fair share of the weight with regard to our own woke, broke, and demoralized military. Trump recently informed his NATO allies that the U.S. would like to see them spend 5% of their GDP on defense. He'd be happy, in truth, with 3% and would settle, and has said so, for 2%. Canada misspends 1.3%, a figure so low that we have reduced our own soldiers, of whom there are frighteningly few, to a state where they find it necessary to purchase even their own helmets. We camouflage this failure by trumpeting our commitment to peace, as we love to do when our politicians take the international stage, or when we slap a Canadian flag on our backpacks when hostling through Europe and Asia, to differentiate ourselves from the evil imperialists to the south. This is hardly the way to signal to the U.S. either that we are capable of defending ourselves, thank you very much, or that we are grateful for their existence of Big Brother captain of the high school wrestling team, much disdained protector of our junior hippie student radical selves. Such things matter more than we think, and a lot more now that Middle America is in charge, given the well-deserved contempt that lot have for the niceties of hypocritical socialist, smartest kid in the class peaceniks. Remember, Canucks, the U.S. is now run by exactly the kind of Americans that we tempt ourselves so unforgivably to treat as our moral inferiors. This is not how friends behave. It is also no way to keep friends once they